The first scream came just after the evening bell. It cut across the fields like wire and blew the sparrows off the telegraph line. Doors slid open, curtains lifted. A schoolgirl in a navy uniform stood beneath the footbridge lamp with her book bag held like a shield. She stared at a narrow strip of darkness beside the road. She said something stood there. She said it had followed her since Monday and had finally stepped out. She said it smiled. People told me later the air turned heavy at once, damp, close, as if the river had risen without moving. The retired station master made the cross his island friend had taught him. The grocer prayed fast and low the way his mother had. The girl pressed her shoulder to the pole and would not let anyone stand to her left. "It waits on that side," she said. "It likes the blind side." She was 15. She had a neat braid and a clean hem and a test paper with red circles. Her voice stayed even. Her hands shook. That autumn, work thinned. Clubs met less. Families counted coins at the corner store. News moved faster than bread. By morning, the rumor had grown children of its own. A first-year boy said a hand rose from the river and gripped the bridge rail. A second-year girl said breath warmed her ear at the bus stop, though the day was cold. Another swore the shadow on the gym wall leaned back when the wind pushed it forward. It spread because the village was small. It spread because fear rides a mouth better than truth. The principal kept students in homeroom after lunch. Teachers opened windows. 2 officers walked the corridors and stood in doorways as if their coats could keep the building in place. They found footprints and chalk dust and nothing else. Still, they stayed. Looking serious can be its own medicine. The girl's mother arrived with a scarf tied under her chin. She asked questions in rows. What did you see? How close did it stand? Did it speak? The girl said it did not need to. A voice in her head promised warmth if she stepped closer. Home became a checkpoint. The father smoked by the window and waited for a shape he could hit. He wanted a prowler. A man would be a mercy. You can grip a wrist. You can shout. You can bleed and count the drops and call it proof. But the hall stayed empty even when she said it stood in the doorway. The kettle clicked. The clock ticked loud enough to sound like shoes. She fell asleep and snapped awake and said it moved when the strip light stuttered. No one in that house loved the dark that week. Then the school caught it like a cold. In music room B, 3 students fainted between scales. Chairs went down like teeth. A clarinet rolled and cried one long, wrong note before it found dust. In the gym, a boy shouted that something licked his knuckles. Laughs tried to rise and stalled. The nurse's room filled and then overflowed to the hallway floor. The PTA called the priest. He walked the perimeter and set his palm to the north wall as if taking a pulse. Air first, he said. Then prayer. Windows stayed open, though the chill bit fingers. After classes, students gathered at the bridge without meaning to. The first girl stopped at a plank with a knot shaped like an eye. "Not this side," she said. They crossed to the other. Halfway over, the boards murmured under the weight of 12 hearts. The river bumped a loose plank. A loose plank can sound like a step when a village is listening for feet. One boy ran, then another. The rest ran because running is a language, and fear speaks it fluently. Parents met in rooms that smelled like tea and soap. Old stories woke like winter moths. A light that moved among cedars in 1956. Foxes barking at noon one summer. A fisherman who felt a hand in water that had no hand. No one said kitsune. No one said ghost. This was the television age. This was the devil, a heavy word for people who preferred lighter ones. The science teacher used softer terms. Suggestion. Social contagion. He drew a loop on the board and said, "A nervous system learns a shape and then finds it everywhere." The priest did not argue. Words are tools. You choose the one your hands know. The police called it nothing and promised patrols. The promise felt like a blanket in a thin house. It helped, even if it did not seal out the cold. On a Friday in late October, clouds scraped the hills and the bus sighed at the gate. Students spilled into afternoon dark. The girl lifted her chin and stopped. She said it stood beyond the crosswalk with an arm raised, palm open, gentle until it wasn't. Her friend gripped her sleeve. A teacher stepped to her other side. The crossing guard planted his feet like a doorstop. A transformer popped down the street. For one breath, the lights failed. The sound that followed was not a scream. It was the hush a crowd forces on itself. They put her in the staff office. Chalk dust drifted in the lamp like ash. The principal crouched and threw his rope. "Repeat after me." He made her say the date. He made her say her mother's name. He made her recite her lunch and the price of bread. A life can be tied to facts when fear tries to pull it loose. The priest read a page with characters small as rice. The officer watched the windows and pretended glass could be guarded. They walked her home before dark. Two baseball boys carried their bats and kept a steady rhythm on the pavement. They talked about nothing in particular. Nothing particular is offense. At the door, the mother bowed until her scarf slipped. The father thanked them with a voice that had aged between lunch and dusk. He left the hall light on. He did not turn it off for a week. On Sunday, the town held a service. Not a festival, not a show, a service. They swept the shrine steps and set out barley tea. They lined their shoes in neat rows so order could get a head start on the week. The priest spoke about fear as if it were weather. It comes, it goes, it leaves branches bent. He did not chase the devil with a name. He made a space where it could drain. People cried, people laughed too loud. Relief does that when it doesn't know where to sit. By winter, the reports were quieter. The boy who swore he felt breath at his neck began to say, maybe it was wind. The girl took the longer route by the bakery. Sugar made an argument the river could not. She still checked her left. She still counted steps when the street narrowed. 7, 8, 9. Turn. A habit is a wall that moves with you. Years later, a new principal found a folder in a drawer that stuck when it rained. It held PTA notes. Absence slips that said faintness, chest tightness, sudden tears. A careful letter asked for patience and attendance. A newspaper clipping tried to be calm and failed. The folder smelled like paste and old tape. If you flipped the pages fast, they made the quiet sound of a small bird looking for a branch. Ask the people now if it was real. They say yes. They also say it depended on where you stood and what you needed from the dark that month. The girl married a man who fixed small engines and did not complain about a light left on. The bridge received new rails and boards with no knots to resemble eyes. The priest grew old and was replaced by a younger one with a bicycle and gentle hands. The river kept its own records under summer glare and winter skin. The town learned how to shut doors gently. It did not take the village. It did not need to. It took a season and rode itself along the nerves that touched the back of the neck. When fear left, it left a groove. People still step around it without looking down. On cold evenings, someone glances at the slice of road by the lamp. Not because they expect to see a shape, because once, a girl said a thing smiled and asked her to come closer, and the village listened, and for a while, the listening made the thing real. Thank you for listening to The Lantern's Tale. Subscribe for more true stories, if you dare.